There's a good chance that somewhere in your kitchen, or maybe on a shelf you've been meaning to clear out, there's a tub of protein powder. Perhaps someone told you that after 60, if you want to hold on to your strength, that powder is what you need. It's a reasonable thing to believe. It's what most of us have been told. But I want to share something that surprises a lot of people. Some of the most useful foods for keeping your muscles strong as you age aren't in a fancy container with a big price tag at all. They're ordinary foods, the kind that cost about $1, sitting in the refrigerator case and on the bottom shelf of every grocery store. And the reason they work so well has nothing to do with marketing and everything to do with how your body actually uses food. Now, I'm not going to tell you these foods magically outrace a protein shake in some laboratory contest. That's not the real story. And the real story is far more useful to you. Muscle does tend to fade with age, and that matters. It's tied to your balance, to staying steady on your feet, to doing the things you enjoy on your own terms. The encouraging part is that food and movement are two levers you can genuinely pull. So over the next little while, I'm going to walk you through 6 inexpensive, everyday foods that can help support muscle after 60. And more importantly, I'm going to explain the one thing that matters more than any single food on the list. Because here's a puzzle worth keeping in mind as we go. Many older adults eat what seems like plenty of protein and still slowly lose muscle. Why does that happen? The answer is the key to this whole conversation, and it changes how you'll think about every food we discuss. So stay with me. Let's begin with the first one. Let's start with something you can find in any grocery store in a plain tub for very little money. Greek yogurt. What makes Greek yogurt stand out from regular yogurt is simple. It's strained, which concentrates the protein. A single serving can give you a substantial amount, often as much as you'd get from an egg or two. And it's the kind of protein your body handles well. Most of the protein in dairy is a form called casein, which tends to digest slowly. Why does slow matter? Because rather than arriving all at once and disappearing, it gives your body a gentle, extended supply of the building blocks muscle uses to repair itself. Think of it less like a quick splash and more like a slow, steady drip. There's a reason that matters more as we age, and I'll come back to it, because it's the heart of this whole conversation. Greek yogurt also brings something a powder simply can't: live cultures, the beneficial bacteria that support digestion. That's worth having, because the nutrients in your food only help you if your body can absorb them properly, and that becomes a little less efficient over the years. And it's genuinely flexible. A bowl in the morning, a snack in the afternoon. Stir in some berries for sweetness and fiber, a few chopped walnuts or seeds for healthy fats, and a bit of crunch. One small, honest note: reach for the plain kind rather than the heavily sweetened flavored cups, which can carry a surprising amount of added sugar. You can always add your own fruit. For not much more than pocket change, it's one of the easiest ways to work more quality protein into your day. Now for a food that a lot of people walk right past, and I'd like to make the case for giving it a second look: canned sardines. I understand, for some, the word alone is enough to wrinkle the nose. But stay with me, because ounce for ounce, these little fish are one of the most nourishing things you can buy for about $1. A single tin gives you a generous amount of complete, high-quality protein. But the protein is only the beginning. Sardines are one of the better food sources of omega-3 fats, the type of fat that research has generally linked to helping calm inflammation in the body, which tends to work against comfort in muscles and joints over time. They're also one of the few foods that naturally contain vitamin D, a nutrient a great many older adults run low on, and one that's connected to both muscle function and bone health. And here's the part people find surprising: if you buy the kind with the soft bones left in. And they are soft and completely safe to eat. You get a real dose of calcium along with the protein. It's a remarkably complete little package. Now, the honest hurdle is the flavor. So let me give you the practical fixes, because this food is too useful to skip over a taste you can easily manage. Mash the sardines with half an avocado and a good squeeze of lemon, and spread that over some whole grain crackers. The lemon and the avocado mellow everything out. Or stir in a little mustard, some capers, or a dash of hot sauce. The strong flavor fades, the nutrition stays. And because a tin sits in your pantry for ages and costs so little, it's one of the most accessible protein sources there is. If fresh fish feels expensive or hard to keep on hand, this is your answer. Our third food might be the most familiar of all, and it comes with a small piece of advice that runs against something you may have been told for years: the egg, and specifically, the whole egg. For a long stretch, many people were told to toss the yolk and eat only the white, out of worry about the fat and cholesterol inside. But our understanding has shifted, and here's the practical takeaway. For most people, the yolk is not the villain it was made out to be. And when it comes to muscle, it may be the more valuable half. The white is mostly protein, yes, but the yolk is where a lot of the good company lives. Vitamin D, that hard-to-find nutrient we just talked about, along with healthy fats and a nutrient called choline, which the body uses in the signaling between nerves and muscles. Some research suggests that eating the whole egg, rather than the white alone, may do more to support muscle, likely because all those extra nutrients arrive together, the way nature packaged them. An egg gives you complete protein, containing all 9 of the essential amino acids your body can't make on its own. It's about as convenient as food gets: boiled, poached, or scrambled with a handful of spinach and a slice of whole grain toast. And it costs very little. I do want to be balanced here. If you've been told to watch your cholesterol, or you're managing heart disease or diabetes, how many eggs are right for you is a conversation to have with your doctor, because people respond differently. But for a great many people, eggs can be a simple, affordable, everyday part of a balanced diet, and there's no need to throw away the best part. Let's shift now from the refrigerator to the pantry and to a food that costs less than almost anything else we'll discuss, yet earns its place with ease: black beans. A cup of cooked black beans gives you a solid amount of plant-based protein, and it arrives wrapped in things a powder leaves out entirely: fiber, minerals, and a whole family of natural plant compounds. There's one honest limitation worth naming, and it leads to a genuinely useful trick. Most plant proteins, beans included, are a little short in 1 or 2 of the essential amino acids. So on their own, they aren't quite as complete as an egg or a piece of fish. But here's the old, simple wisdom that solves it: pair beans with a grain, like brown rice. The rice supplies what the beans are missing, and together they form a complete protein that stands shoulder to shoulder with meat for pennies. Beans and rice, a combination people all over the world have relied on for centuries, and it turns out there was real nutritional sense behind it all along. Beyond the protein, the fiber in black beans does a quiet, valuable job. It steadies your blood sugar, which helps keep your energy even rather than spiking and crashing. And it feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, which matters more than we once thought, because a healthy gut is part of how well your body absorbs everything else you eat. One practical tip, since it's the usual complaint: if beans tend to trouble your digestion, cooking them with a little cumin or a bay leaf can help, and rinsing canned beans well before you use them makes them gentler on the stomach. A bowl of beans and rice, brightened with a squeeze of lime and some fresh herbs, is about as affordable and satisfying as a muscle-supporting meal gets. Our fifth food is one that spent years with a dull, dieter's reputation, and it deserves far better, especially if you're older, and especially at one particular time of day: cottage cheese. Like the Greek yogurt we started with, cottage cheese is rich in that slow-digesting casein protein. Which brings me to an idea I find genuinely useful, and here it is. Think about the night. Between your evening meal and breakfast, there can be 10, 12, even more hours where your body gets no protein at all, the longest stretch of the whole day. And your body doesn't stop its quiet repair work just because you're asleep. So a small serving of a slow-releasing protein before bed is a quietly clever idea. It gives your body a gentle, extended supply of building blocks to work with through the night instead of running on empty. Cottage cheese is close to perfect for that job. Slow protein, easy to eat, and it happens to bring a good amount of calcium in the form dairy provides, which your muscles and your bones both put to use. A cup an hour or so before bed is all it takes. Stir in a spoonful of ground flaxseed and a few berries. The flax adds healthy fats that slow things down even further, and the berries add a little fiber and sweetness. If plain cottage cheese isn't to your liking, it takes well to both sweet and savory: fruit and a sprinkle of cinnamon on one hand, or a bit of tomato and black pepper on the other. It's inexpensive, it's gentle, and it may be the most underrated bedtime habit for anyone trying to hold on to their strength. And that brings us to the sixth food, one that's fed people affordably for thousands of years and still quietly outperforms its humble reputation: lentils. Like the black beans, lentils offer plant-based protein along with a generous helping of fiber and some nutrients that matter, especially as we age: iron, which your blood uses to carry oxygen to your muscles, and folate, among others. They share the same small limitation as beans and the same easy solution. On their own, plant proteins are slightly incomplete, but pair lentils with a grain like rice or quinoa, and you round out the full set of amino acids. What I appreciate about lentils, practically speaking, is that they're gentle and easy. Unlike dried beans, most lentils don't even need soaking, and they cook quickly into soups, stews, and simple bowls that are easy to chew and easy to digest, which is no small thing if heavier meals have started to sit poorly. A pot of lentils simmered with a little garlic, onion, and turmeric, perhaps in a broth rather than plain water, makes a warm, nourishing meal for a few cents a serving. And because they keep so well in the cupboard, dry and patient, they're the kind of food you can always have on hand, which, as we'll see in just a moment, is half the battle. Between lentils and black beans, anyone eating less meat these days has two excellent, affordable ways to keep quality protein in their week. Before I tell you the single most important idea, let me give you a simple way to hold all six of these in your head, because it also solves a very practical problem. What if you can't stand one of them or can't find it? Really, these six fall into three families. There are the dairy proteins, your Greek yogurt, and your cottage cheese. Slow digesting, easy, and gentle. There are the animal proteins, the sardines and the eggs, which are complete all on their own and especially rich in that hard-to-find vitamin D. And there are the plant proteins, the black beans and the lentils, high in fiber and minerals, wonderfully cheap, and best paired with a grain to complete them. Why does that grouping help? Because it means you're never stuck. Don't care for sardines? Canned salmon, mackerel, or even tuna will do a similar job. Cottage cheese, not for you? Lean on the Greek yogurt, or try a little ricotta. Not a fan of black beans? Any bean works. Chickpeas, kidney beans, pinto, and lentils fill the same role. You don't need all six. You need a couple you'll genuinely eat, and ideally one from each family across your week, so you get the steady protein, the omega-3s and vitamin D, and the fiber all together. The best food for your muscles is always the good one you'll actually keep eating. Before we go further, a quick question, and I do read them. Of these six, which one is already a regular part of your week? Leave it in the comments. Now, here's the puzzle I promised you at the very start, and its answer is the most important thing I can give you today. Remember the question: why do so many older adults eat what looks like plenty of protein and still slowly lose muscle? Here's the honest reason. As we age, our bodies become a little less responsive to protein than they once were. Researchers sometimes call this anabolic resistance, but you don't need the term. You just need what it means for you. It means an older body needs the message delivered more clearly and more often, and that reshapes everything. It was never really about finding one magic food that beats a powder. It's about three things working together. First, getting enough total protein over the course of the day. Second, and this is the part most people miss, spreading that protein across your meals rather than eating a tiny breakfast, a light lunch, and then piling almost all of it onto dinner. A meaningful amount of protein at each meal appears to serve an older body far better than one big serving at night. And third, giving your muscles a reason to keep the strength you're feeding them, which we'll come to shortly. So look again at your six foods and see them for what they really are. Not miracle cures, but six affordable, practical tools for hitting that pattern. The Greek yogurt and the eggs at breakfast, where protein so often goes missing. The beans or the lentils at lunch. The cottage cheese covering that long night. That's the whole game. And notice, not a scoop of powder in sight. You might be wondering how much protein we're actually talking about. I'm going to resist handing you a single number, because the honest truth is that it varies with your size, your health, your activity level, and more. But here's a simple, practical picture that works for most people. Aim for a protein source at each of your three meals, roughly the size of the palm of your hand. an egg or two, and some yogurt at breakfast, beans, lentils, fish, or a bit of meat at lunch, a protein at dinner, and perhaps that small serving of cottage cheese before bed. You don't need to weigh or count a thing. You just need to make sure protein is genuinely present at each meal, which, for a lot of people, is the real change. One important exception, and please take this one seriously. If you have kidney disease or you're on certain medications, the right amount of protein for you may be quite different. And it's genuinely important to work that out with your doctor rather than simply eating more. For most healthy older adults, though, gently increasing your protein and spreading it out is a sensible goal. Let me make all of this concrete, because it's far easier to follow when you can picture an ordinary day. Imagine you wake up and instead of just toast and coffee, you have 2 eggs scrambled with a little spinach and a small bowl of Greek yogurt with a few berries. Right away, you've done the thing most people miss. You've put real protein at breakfast. Come mid-morning, if you're peckish, a little more of that yogurt or a handful of nuts keeps the supply going. At lunch, a warm bowl of lentils or black beans and rice with a squeeze of lime. There's your protein, your fiber, and steady energy to carry you through the afternoon. Maybe you take a short walk after, or do a bit of gardening. That gentle movement helps your body put the food to use. Dinner might be a piece of fish or those mashed sardines on whole grain crackers alongside some vegetables. And then, an hour before bed, that small cup of cottage cheese to cover the long night ahead. Look at what happened across that day. Protein showed up at every single meal in modest, palm-sized amounts from foods that together cost only a few dollars. No powder, no counting, no complicated plan. That is what supporting your muscles after 60 actually looks like, and it's well within reach. Now, the third piece. And I promised I'd come back to it, because without it, the rest only goes so far. Food gives your muscles the raw material to rebuild, but raw material alone doesn't build anything. Your muscles also need a reason to hold on to their strength, and that reason comes from using them. When a muscle is asked to work against a little resistance, even gently, it receives the signal to maintain and strengthen itself. Without that signal, the protein you eat has less to hold on to. This is the honest correction to the idea, tempting as it is, that the right foods can replace exercise. They can't, and they were never meant to. Food and movement do different jobs, and each one makes the other work better. The good news is that the movement we're talking about is not a gym, and not anything strenuous or frightening. For many people, it's as simple as standing up from a sturdy chair and sitting back down a few times, carrying your own groceries, or gentle exercises done while holding onto a counter for balance. But, and this matters, if you have health conditions, real weakness, problems with your balance, or you simply haven't been active in a long while, please check with your doctor or a qualified professional before starting something new. They'll help you find what's safe for your body. Feed the muscle, and then give it a reason to stay. That partnership is worth more than any single item on our list. One more practical thing, since it comes up so often with older adults, those sudden leg cramps, especially at night. They can have many causes, and if they're frequent or severe, it's worth mentioning to your doctor, because occasionally they point to something that needs attention. But for a lot of people, a few simple habits help. Staying well hydrated through the day matters more than most realize. It's easy to drink too little as we age, partly because the sense of thirst quietly fades. Getting enough of certain minerals plays a role too, and you'll notice several foods on our list already help there. The calcium in cottage cheese and in soft sardine bones, and the potassium and magnesium in beans, lentils, and yogurt. So the same everyday eating that supports your muscles may also make those cramps a little less likely. Some gentle stretching of the calves before bed can help as well. Small things, but they add up. Let me gather up the common mistakes, because avoiding them is often as useful as anything else. The first is the one this whole conversation pushes back on, believing you need an expensive powder or supplement to stay strong. For most people, real food does the job beautifully, and a doctor is the right person to tell you if you truly need a supplement. The second is the breakfast problem, starting the day with almost no protein and never quite catching up. The third is loading nearly all your protein onto dinner and then wondering why it isn't enough. The fourth is chasing a single superfood. There isn't one, And anyone promising a miracle is usually selling something. It's the overall pattern that counts. The fifth is fearing perfectly good foods. The yolk of an egg, the carbohydrates in beans and rice, when those are so often the useful parts. And the sixth, quietly, is simply not eating enough overall. Some of us eat less as the years go by, a smaller appetite, less interest in cooking for one. But if the food isn't there, even the best choices have little to work with. None of these are failings. They're just easy assumptions. And now that you can see them, they're easy to step around. So here's a simple picture to carry with you, and it needs no chart and no calculator. At every meal, ask 2 quick questions. 1, is there protein here? That's the anchor. The eggs, the yogurt, the fish, the beans and rice, the lentils, the cottage cheese, or a bit of meat. 2, is it a real palm-sized amount and not just a token? If the answer to either is no, which for so many people is exactly what's been happening at breakfast and lunch for years, then you know precisely what to add. And then, once a day, give your muscles a little work to do. That's it. That's the entire method, and it runs on foods that cost about $1. And that brings us back to where we began, and to the promise that got you here. $1 food that beats the powder. I hope you can see now that the real answer was never a contest between a bean and a shake. The real answer is that strength after 60 doesn't come from anything expensive or complicated. It comes from getting enough good protein spread through your day, from simple foods your body already knows how to use, and from giving your muscles a gentle reason to keep it. That's something within reach for almost anyone, on almost any budget. So here's the one small step I'd leave you with. Don't try to overhaul everything tomorrow. Just look at tomorrow's breakfast, the meal where protein most often goes missing, and add one thing, a couple of eggs, a bowl of Greek yogurt. That single change, repeated, tends to matter far more than any dramatic plan that doesn't last. Now I'd love to hear from you. Of these 6 foods, which one are you going to start with this week? Leave it in the comments. Your answer might be exactly the nudge someone else needs. Take good care of yourself. Eat well, move a little, and be patient with the process. And I'll see you in the next one.